This is our second tutorial video in Photoshop. So let's pick up where we left off. This time, instead of just doing a file open, I'd like you to go to File and do Open As. And you'll see that when we go to Lesson 6, go back to your Photoshop Basics. We're going to Lesson 6. There's only one photo here, so you could do a single click, but don't open it until you go to the Open As, and let's choose Camera Raw version. So we get first when we open it, we get a chance to change how the photo was actually created or stored here. So I'm going to cancel and repeat those steps. Go to File, Open As, and then we want to choose the Safe Healing photo, but just single click on it. And then under Open As, what type of file? Let's go to Camera Raw. And now when we actually choose Open, an unusual window we haven't seen yet is going to open up. And it's going to give us lots of different choices that we can make some adjustments before we even start. So we're going to make the photo of this gentleman look nicer here. It's already a very pleasant photo, but when we might have a choice here right away to experiment with, for example, exposure, get the photo nice and bright, however you might want that, contrast. So opening it in this Camera Raw, we can make some changes. You can play with these sliders and see what you think works best. Some of them don't make too many changes at all. You can see his hair definitely darkening there, so might make that so that it matches whatever you expected the photo to be. All right, so make however many changes you want to play with those sliders, and then let's go ahead and open the image. And so we've already made some changes in the photo already. All right, let's talk about zooming in and zooming out here. Of course, you could find them under the View menu to zoom in, but notice the keystroke control and then hitting the plus sign repeatedly, and control with a minus sign will zoom out. So instead of using the menu choice, I'm going to hold the control key and do plus so you can see what zooming in does. I'm holding down the control key and hitting minus, so not surprisingly here. So even though we can't see the entire photo at once, let's zoom in quite a bit, and then, the layer here is our background layer, so I should have duplicated before we even started. So let's duplicate the layer and call it layer 0. All right. And I think I'm going to change my mind there. I'm going to remind you how we can double click on the name, and I'm going to have you call this Spot Healing. So the name of the layer will remind you what we're going to do. And we're going to try the Spot Healing tool first to remove some blemishes from the photo. So as you scroll around, so for example, if we want to use the Spot Healing tool, we can remove some of these marks from the photo, as any good professional photographer would do for a portrait. And we could, from this layer, hit the letter J, and it will give us the Spot Healing Brush tool. Or I don't normally remember all of those names, so I do know what it looks like here in the toolbox, though it looks like a Band-Aid. But notice that there are side menus here if you click on that little triangle. So there's more than one tool. So to start with, we're doing the Spot Healing Brush tool, not the healing brush, but the Spot Healing Brush tool. So click that choice, and you can see that it's got a spot behind the Band-Aid is how you're going to remember that. All right, now up in our options bar, Let's choose sample all layers so that as it's making changes, it's taking samples from each of the layers. Remember, the spot healing layer is on top of the background layer. The size of our brushes comes from this little dot here, and you can see that we can change the number of pixels for the width of the brush. And you might not know exactly what that's doing here. Let me just pick a size. And then when I come over here, you can see when I drag off how that turns into a circle. So that's going to be the size of the spot that gets removed. And the rule here is that we want to make very subtle changes. So make the radius no bigger than you need to. So for example, when I want to remove this red spot, I make the radius of the tool just a little bit bigger. And then when I click, boom, did you see that that little blemish went away? So I could scroll around here to find, maybe I should stick up here. How about right here? If you click, so notice that it's going to take colors from nearby. And now I might want to make the size of the tool even a little smaller. And I can click on some of these spots wherever you think that there is a mark that that person might not want on the photo. And the only reason for zooming in is so that we get a clearer picture. So here, for example, you might want to make the size of the brush just a little bit larger. And so that would remove this spot here. I see a spot here. If you can see, I'm going to move this so you can see where I'm working. I'm going to click next to his collar. And that actually took the red from his collar, so my brush was a little too big. So here's an example. The brush was too large and we got some red there. So this is a good example where I might just want to undo that most recent one. So Control Z, and it put it right back the way that it was. So what might I want to try? I might want to try a little bit smaller and make sure I'm not next to his red shirt. Okay, and I'm not sure that that helped all that much down there. So let's go try whatever else you see. If you see any marks that look like blemishes, perhaps over here, there's perhaps a different color spot over here on his cheek. So let me hit return to close that. So I might choose over here. So you may or may not like the result. So Control Z undoes what you did there. So this spot healing brush is something you might want to use just for some specific areas. All right, so I think those are fine. And remember to use your Control Z right away if you actually don't like the change that it made. All right, now for these areas that have some red and this line in his forehead, or for example, some of these lines in his neck, let's use a different healing tool. Okay, now we're going to use a different type. We're going to use the next layer. So I'm going to go to Spot Healing, and I can either do a Control J or a right click and duplicate the layer. And we're going to call this one the Healing Brush layer. So a little different than the spot healing. So healing brush layer, we're going to click OK. And notice, by the way, these are all selected. If I unclick, then it makes the layers, they're still there. It just makes it so you're not looking at them. Okay, so in the healing brush layer, now I'm going to go back to the spot healing brush tool where I was before, but now I'm going to use the second one in that side menu, the healing brush tool. And what's different now is that we have to set a sample of what it is that we want to replace with. So I'm going to make this size of the brush a little smaller, and then I'm going to hit enter. And now what we need to do is select first an area that we like. So I'm going to try and erase this line in this guy's neck, and I'm going to choose a color I want to fill it with. So I'm going to choose a part of the skin that is nearby but looks nicer. So I'm going to hold down the Alt key to get a sample of what I like. So notice then when I click the mouse, now I've got my sample, and now I'm going to hold down the mouse and I'm just going to drag over the top of this neck, and then when we let go, it is going to do some magic and that line is going to get replaced with that. And I might not like the color that I've chosen, but you can see what's happening now over in the center here. I'm just continuing to hold down the mouse key and painting over the top of that line so you can see that it's almost gone. What I might want to do here in front is get a new sample, because you can see the skin here is a much different color, and I want it to look kind of natural. So to change the sample of the brush, I'm going to hold down the Alt key to change the cursor, and then when I click, now when I paint, and I'm just holding the mouse key down to make this paintbrush work here, and now when I let go, let's see what happens. So it looks like I made that a little too, so I'm just going to undo that step. So I might go here back to my history, and you might want to delete some of the steps in your history. So delete this state, and you can see that we could continue each of the history steps here. So we can delete one, or we can go back quite a few. All right, so I don't think that works so well here on this line in the front. So actually what I'm going to do here, I still have the tool. I'm going to hold down the Alt key and click Select, and I'm going to try a little darker skin actually and see how that would work removing this. I'm holding down the mouse key to paint over the top. And I've got an odd color in here. I'm not sure how it sampled that odd color. All right, now I think I'm doing better. And in fact, this white area, I might actually want to make this a little darker because it might not look so natural. So I might actually want to paint over this. All right, so I've got, I think, actually some improvement there. And again, anytime you want to get a new sample, hold down the Alt key, click, and then just hold down the mouse to paint over the top of a line, and depending on the color. So we're making his neck look a lot smoother. It's up to you how many of these you want to do. Hold down the Alt key, select a color nearby, and then paint over a line. Now you don't want to remove every line and wrinkle from someone's face. That wouldn't look very natural. Okay, another place that I might want to use that might be up here in the forehead area where there was kind of some redness. So I'm making my brush wider, and I'm going to hold down the Alt key here where the skin is a little lighter, and then I'm going to paint over some of this redness. And again, watch each step, because if you don't like what it did, you can always do the Control Z to undo your most recent step. If you want to undo several steps, then you would come over here and you would delete some of the steps from your history. Okay, notice there's a scroll bar on the history here, so it can remember quite a few steps, and you can go to the preferences menu to have it remember as many steps as you want to in your history. Okay, I might do just a little bit here with the guy's crow's feet here, these lines next, so I might hold down the Alt key nearby to get a good color, and I might actually paint over, and that actually left this black mark here, so I'm going to do Control Z. I didn't have a good choice of skin color, so I might try again if I click here to get my sample. Let's see how that works, painting over that line. And then I could come over here and see if I want to remove some of that line. These lines under the eyes, it's up to you whether you think it looks natural having some of those lines out. And again, you can undo if the step doesn't work so well. Okay, so you've got the idea, and with time you can play with this. The spot healing tool and the healing brush, two different tools. And then I can do Control minus to zoom back out, and I think that we definitely have made his photograph look much more attractive, but again, you don't want to make it look unnatural. When you are happy with your changes, we've got 3 different layers here. You can always delete one of the layers and start again if you don't like the layers. Once you think you've got a good choice, then we want to go to Layer, choose Flatten Image, and once it's back into a single layer, then we can go to File and do Save As. So you've got some good ideas now how you can make your photographs look much more perfect. All right, and we're going to do one more lesson here. Sorry, it was still saving. All right, now I'm going to open lesson 7. And the idea here is we've done a scan from an old yearbook or some old photo album. And what you will notice, I'm going to do Control plus here to zoom in. What you often notice is that you get this pixelation or pattern when you do a scan from an old book. So we're going to work on improving the consistency of the photo. We might want to darken it, and let me do Control minus to zoom out here. Notice that when we scanned it, we also have it crooked, and that often happens when you put a photo on a scanner. So that's the first thing we're going to take care of, is how to straighten the photo. There is an option to just set your rotation, so by trial and error you could pick the number of degrees, but there's an excellent ruler tool here, and it is find the eyedropper tool and then go to its pull down side menu. So I'm going to find this ruler tool in the same place as the eyedropper. And now what you want to do is click in the upper left hand corner. So get to the upper left corner and click your mouse, and then hold and drag over to, I'm just moving this so you can see where I am here. I want to click and drag to the upper right hand corner. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm at the top of the scan instead of at the top of the photo. Let me undo this again here. Let me actually start again here, and let me click in the upper right hand corner of the actual scan. This is where I wanted my ruler, and I want to set from the upper left corner, click, hold it, drag over to the upper right, and then let go. All right, so now we have a ruler set at what we want to be level. And we go to the image menu and choose rotate, which you could have just done as a free rotation, but now we've actually set our rotation. So let's go to image rotation arbitrary, and this has already calculated the angle needed to match our ruler line. So all we need to do is click OK, and like magic, our picture is now straightened out. So we now have nice vertical and horizontal edges. All right, now we want to deal with this pattern from the old book that we've scanned from. And our step here, let me see if I can remember. I think we need to change this again, go to filter and convert for smart filters first before we can use them. And again, you'll notice the change over here. It converted to a smart object. And then the filter that I want to choose is filter noise. And let's go to median. Filter menu, noise, median. And then it gives us a little zoom in option, and it chooses radius here, and we don't want to go way over here. We want to just choose a very small radius, 1, 2, or 3 here. Should do, so you got to be very careful. It's a very small. Let's actually stick with 3 here. And it's, you can see what it's kind of doing is spreading out so that we won't have that little square pattern in our scan. So choose radius of 1, 2, or 3, no more than that, or your picture will be a bit distorted. Let's click OK. And then we have to choose another filter, and maybe first let's zoom in, and notice, by the way, how zoomed in you are. The size of your photo, it fits into the window, the actual 100% here. If I go up to 100%, oops, a little too far, so let's do Control minus. So here I'm at 100% of the photo. So after I did that radius change, then I need to go to sharpen. So I'm going to go back to filter, sharpen, and I want to unsharp mask. And you can experiment with this, but the default values will be okay. What this is actually going to do then is going to kind of smooth back out where it filled in for that square pattern. And now we could flatten our image and save. If you want to see the whole photo, again, we can do our Control minus. We might also want to use the crop tool here. Let's try that. The crop tool gives us corners. So drag them. So we had scanned a little bit more than the actual photo. So let's grab 2 corners and get the version we want for the crop. And now when you go to do your save as, it's going to say, do you want to finish the cropping before you save? And yes, let's go ahead and do the crop. And then we can save this. And actually, I think that there maybe is one more thing. Should I, oops, crop the image before closing? Yes, please crop. And then save, yes. All right. I'm going to open that again because I just realized. So open the one that you just saved. And the one thing that I think that we could do here, do you notice how this looks light? So let's repeat something we did in a previous lesson. Let's duplicate the layer, and then in that copy of the background, let's go to this normal button and let's do multiply again. Remember, that was how we could make the photo a little bit darker. So I think that looks much better. And we could now flatten the image. Oh, and I'm still in the crop tool is why I keep getting that. So I should click back into the move tool. And then we can finish. And now I've already done that save as, so I don't really need to do save as again. I could have just done save. So I'm just going to save over the same name. Yes, I would like to replace it with that same name. All right, so I think that made several improvements on that old photo. All right, then we're ready to start some fun stuff about selecting pieces of an image and moving them into different photos. So if you want to place yourself on the moon, that's going to be our next lesson.